Is the wolf time upon us? We're jumping right back in again with another lore video. This time, we're going back to the first founding Space Marine book because there is new lore added to this. A lot of people will be familiar what the wolf time is and what really happened, especially with the story inside of this with Magnus's second invasion of Fenris. But it opens the door to a really, really interesting question, and that is the wolf time upon us? Is this the time we're actually going to see Leman Russ return not only back to the galaxy, but back to the Space Wolves to lead them again? Let's jump in and let's get waffling. Now, the following text is taken from the Space Wolf section in the first founding book, and it's labeled Chapter Legend, The Siege of Fenris. I'm just going to read the little bit at the bottom. I'm going to put it in the background as well so you can read along with me. So the text states, Magnus and his warriors have assailed Fenris directly twice. The first time in M32 was a surprise attack on a lightly defended fang that almost resulted in the Space Wolves' destruction. The second, more recent event took place shortly before the opening of the Cicatrix Maledictum. It saw the Dark Angels manipulated into turning on the Space Wolves, the entire Fenris system invaded, Magnus Ared abroad once more in the Materium, and Prospero's return from the Eye of Terror. Although the Chaos Trickery was exposed and reunited the Imperial forces were victorious, many of the Space Wolves' greatest warriors were slain, and in the aftermath, the tribal population of Fenris was culled by the Inquisition in an awful echo of the Months of Shame. Afterwards, the Space Wolves were so weakened that Logan Grimnar became convinced that the wolf time was upon his chapter. The end of the days when Russ would return and the Space Wolf doom would finally overcome them. He set about selling his remaining warriors' lives as dearly as he could, and it appeared that Magnus's plan to destroy his enemies would finally come to fruition. Only rebooted Guilliman's arrival at Fenris rescued Grimnar from his destructive state of mind, and the reinforcements the Primarch brought pulled the chapter back from the brink. Now, that passage of text can be taken in a couple of different ways. Firstly, it all takes place before the Great Rift, as it does mentioned. So this is before the galaxy splits in half. Of course, where we are now in the lore, the galaxy has split in half. Logan Grimnar himself thought the wolf time was upon the Space Wolves, even though he was reinforced by the Primaris Marines, by Guilliman himself. I personally still think the wolf time is still upon the Space Wolves. It's upon the galaxy itself. The Imperium is split in two. There's chaos like bleeding out like a hemorrhoid, right? Upon planets, chapters, worlds lost, destroyed. The Imperium is in its worst state it's ever been. Worser than during the Horus Heresy, in my opinion. Even though we've been reinforced by Guilliman and the Primaris Marines and the Lion, which has just come back now, we are still in a dire state of needing help and order in the Imperium. But the true question is, if it is the wolf time, does that mean Leman Russ is going to return back to Warhammer 40,000? Now, we'll get on to the rumours and we'll get on to that speculation in just a second. Let's just look at what we've got so far. Now, for those of you who have been following the Dawn of Fire series, we actually got a book called The Wolf Time by Gav Thorpe, and a lot of us, myself included, thought, okay, this is it. This is where we're going to get like a prophecy of Russ returning, maybe one of like the Storm Callers, or no, they're not called Storm Seers, one of the Wolf Priests, or whatever you dog or people call yourselves. This is where we're going to see maybe like a vision of Leman Russ returning to the 40k setting, and this is where the hype's going to be building and building up. But as you all know, for people who've read that book, there was literally nothing mentioned about Leman Russ or anything of the wolf time in that book. It was just Space Wolves fighting orcs on a Space Hulk and them accepting the eventual integration of the Primaris Marines. So it was a kind of a bit of a blow, really, when it came to that, even though it was called the wolf time. But I do personally think that Leman Russ is going to be returning to the setting. And there's a couple of reasons why I believe this. And again, this is all pure speculation, theory, rumor, take it as you take it, copious amounts of salt at this time. I personally believe it fits the narrative of the story, what's going on at the moment. As I've just previously mentioned, the galaxy is burning. We need more grander legendary figures returning to the setting. I know a lot of people don't agree with that, but that's the way I see it. If you don't agree, then, you know, no skin off my nose. But if you do agree, bring all the legendary characters back. And secondly is the rumours. In the rumourverse, there has been rumours that the Space Wolves are going to be getting certain things during the 10th edition run. Now, from a business standpoint as well, from Games Workshop, it makes sense, because if you look what they've already done with the Dark Angel range, or should I say the upcoming Dark Angel range, they've brought their Primarch back. And by the way, they brought the Lion back in one of the coolest ways possible. I like how he's kind of like a forgiven Lion now, and he just wants to go out and protect the Imperium. He wants to fulfill his father's dreams of protecting humanity. That's all he wants. He doesn't want power. He doesn't want Guilliman's sword or anything like that. He's actually happy to learn that he's not the only loyalist Primarch that's still living, which is kind of sad. And, you know, I can't wait for them to meet. That's a whole different video on itself. But if they bring Leman Russ back, as I was mentioning, it makes sense, because then what you can have is the Space Wolves getting a refresh range, new models and stuff like that, because, you know, they kind of need it. Space Marines, oh no, Space Marines getting more models. I'm sorry, I'm not saying Space Marines getting more models, but it's going to happen, so we're going to talk about it anyway. So with the Space Marines, aka the Space Wolves, getting a new range update, it makes sense. New characters getting new models, maybe new upgrade kits, new vehicles, maybe just new models themselves. It's all got to happen at some point, and I do think it will happen during the 10th edition play, or should I say the 10th edition, well, whatever you want to call it, the 10th edition, right? And adding to that, it makes sense then for their Primarch to come back, because what we've seen so far, on the traitor side anyway, is that every traitor deity of a god, Khorne, Nurgle, and Tzeentch so far, we are going to get Fulgrim. I keep saying this, we are going to get Fulgrim for Slaanesh. They've all received their Primarchs, and we're starting to see that mirrored now on the Imperium side. The Lion, Dark Angels, the Ultramarines, with Guilliman, and the Space Wolves, I predict, with Leman Russ. Now, the burning bush question is, how is Leman Russ going to return? Is he going to be a wild Leman Russ, like all kind of like dog-like werewolf creature, which I absolutely hate the idea of? I know a lot of people talk about this, but I literally hate having a werewolf Russ. It's just so on the nose of Space Wolves. For me, personally, and I've spoken about this on many, many streams, is that I would love Russ to return as kind of like an Odin Russ. One eye, aged with war. He comes back with a sense of maturity, because Russ, during the Great Crusade and Horus Heresy, was kind of juvenile. He was kind of, you know, a child in the way he acted. So to him to come back, to be aged by war, to seeing the things that he's seen, I think that could be an incredible step for his character, and also an incredible step for the Space Wolves and the lore of 40,000 itself. But it all comes down to you. Do you think the Wolf time is upon us? I personally do think it is upon us. This is a galaxy-ending threat, not only from Chaos, by the way, but from the Xenos forces. The 4th Tyrannic War has just happened. We are literally seeing the biggest invasion by the Tyranids, right? And the Tyranids are here to eat everything. Chaos, Orc, Imperium, they see everyone as the same. A dinner plate, the buffet, let's say. So that itself is kind of the end time. I think we always associate the end time with chaos or like orcs or something like that, but you know, it's not. It's literally anything that could end the galaxy, and I do think the Tyranids could be the bringing of the end times in the lore as well. But that's enough waffling for me, as always. I do believe Russ is going to return in 10th edition. I believe the Space Wolves are going to get some cool stuff in 10th edition. But that's just me. That's just my opinion. That's just my theory and the rumours and everything like that. I'd love to see what you think in the comment section. Please post below. I'm of a nice little chin wag down there, as we always do. See you now. Have a great day, and bye-bye.